everyone that's out there. Glad you're here this evening. It's kind of an odd experience for me. I've been a teacher for many years, and I'm not used to not having faces to look at. I do have Nick, who's here helping us tonight. I do have a picture of him, but not his video. So anyway, this is kind of an odd thing. I guess it's giving me some empathy for our late night hosts who have been doing their shows from home with being used to a live audience. So I guess I can get a sense of what they're feeling. Please do use the chat to ask any questions. I'll try to keep track of that. Try not to get too wound up talking that I can't pay attention to that. I do appreciate questions. Do ask me to stop, clarify, ask questions. That's what we're here for. Thanks so much to start for being here to learn about Clifton Strengths or Gallup Strengths Finder, maybe the way that you've heard it. Perhaps you have your top 5 talent themes. Maybe somebody's posted them outside your office or shared them, or you've taken them, or maybe you even know all 34, but you haven't done much more with that. Or you've just heard, what is this? And that's why you're here. So thank you for being here. Glad you're here, even though I can't see you here. Anyway, here's the plan for tonight. Kind of have 3 parts. We're going to talk first about talent, define it, identifying it, and why that would be important to you in your future as well as currently. And this will be talent in general, but really kind of talent around the Gallup's Strengths Finder and how Gallup defines talent. Strength, what does a strength mean? So we hear talent, and yet they call it the Strengths Finder. So yeah, there's a whole kind of publishing story around that. Basically, we'll talk about how you turn your talents into strengths. So a definition of that, development, awareness, and management of your strengths. And then lastly, I think what many people are maybe looking for right now is we think about different jobs, promotions, or maybe moving to another job. How can we apply this in life, both personally, at work, and while seeking a job? So again, thank you for being here. We'll start by talking about talent. So what gives me the credentials to be here? I don't know, life, and the fact that I have had the opportunity to be trained as a Clifton Strengths coach down at Gallup's Riverfront campus. And then I've also worked with staff and students to help them to understand and coach them in their talents as well. So I'll share a little bit about that, but I really want to get into talking about what talent is. So I'm going to start with a quick little video that's from Gallup. We're not going to watch the whole thing. It gets a little sales pitchy. I love Gallup. I encourage you to do your strengths assessment. I encourage you to attend their virtual summit. I believe it's June 2nd. Become a strengths coach, a certified strengths coach. It's phenomenal. But I'm not here to promote or sell that. So we'll listen to about the first 50 seconds talking about talent from Gallup's perspective. And there we go.
Do you ever wonder why you make the choices you do? Why some things come naturally while others don't? Why you are drawn to certain activities and not to others? There's a simple but powerful reason: your talents. When you understand your unique talents, you have the power to harness them, and your whole world can change. We see talent in people around us every day. The patterns of thought, feeling, or behavior that give them a unique edge. Sometimes it may even seem effortless. In fact, our talents are the keys to our innate potential. When we tap into them, we act with more confidence, inspiration, and direction. But we often take our most powerful talents for granted, or we may not even be aware of them. I'm
going to stop that there. Gets a little, like I say, more of a promotional video, which I think is fine. But I'm going to stop there with that last thing, because what is talent by definition? So it's the way that you naturally think, feel, and behave. Those things that you do with ease. And your talent is it's just so you that you can find it hard to see in yourself. Everyone can, I've heard people say, I've felt myself say, everyone can do X, whatever it is. But everyone really can't do X the exact way that you can do it with the same persistence, with the same talent, if you will. In fact, Gallup has studied this, and of those top 5 talents, for those to end up being arranged in that same order, the odds of 2 people having that same order is 1 in 33 million. So really, everyone can't do X the way that you do X. A little bit, I kind of like to include some examples. It's really easy just to dump information, so hopefully to make it a bit more real for you. I've had the opportunity to work with some clients. These people are young adults, Caitlin and Brady. And you see I have some little images there, kind of let you know right off the bat what their talents are probably related to. Both of these young adults lead with competition, which is one of the strengths, one of the talent themes that Gallup has identified. And competition, most of us understand that, and we certainly think of athletes in the field of competition. But people can be competitive in all sorts of careers and jobs. People in academics compete. People in any kind of job compete for promotion. So wanting to really be the best at what you do. There's kind of a little caveat to that, which I've come to learn about competition. It's not one of my top talents, but I certainly am around enough people. And these 2 young people in particular, again, they lead with the talent of competition themes. So for Caitlin, both these people, I'm just going to start general where they are right now. Both these young adults have full ride scholarships to college. And they have full ride college scholarships because they have developed their talents and being extremely intentional, being coached and developing those things that they're talented in. For Caitlin, that's been basketball. And for Brady, it started out as soccer. And then it has led to his actual academic scholarship has ended up being, his actual scholarships ended up being an academic scholarship. And so there'll be a little bit of a story that I'll add to that. But Caitlin and Brady, please remember they lead with that competition, and they use it in slightly different ways to be the best at something. So another quick Clifton Strengths assessment to talk a little bit about their assessment in general and then some of the insights. So just again, this is an introduction to Clifton Strengths or the Strengths Finder. So if you haven't taken it or you're interested or you did take it, maybe this is some information that you weren't familiar with. And again, this one I won't go to the end. We'll only watch about the first minute and 20 seconds. So we're not going to have an hour of video watching.
Is zillion a real number? No, zillion's not a real number, but it is a word you might be tempted to use if you tried to list all the talents found among humankind. Creating a list of every talent is an impossible task, but if you step back, you'll see that talents often have something in common, a theme that connects them. Some talents, like a natural tendency to share thoughts, to create engaging stories, and to find the perfect word, relate directly to communication. That's what they have in common, their theme. So to begin thinking and talking about them, we can call them communication talents. The Clifton Strengths Finder measures the presence of talent in 34 general areas or themes. Your Clifton Strengths Finder report includes a ranked listing of the 5 themes that hold your most dominant talents, your signature themes. Similar to your fingerprint, the sequence of your themes is unique to you. The odds that someone has the same 5 signature themes in the same order as you are 1 in 33 million. You heard right, 1 in 33 million. Your report is a beginning, not an end. Take this opportunity to explore your talents, harness their power, and bring them to life every day. Try this.
All right, so that's a nice brief overview of the top 5 talents, and that's kind of what Gallup recommends that you focus on as you start your talent development journey. Those are the top 5 talent themes that you've really demonstrated through their well-researched assessment. that you just shine at. You're just very, very good at. They're those naturally recurring patterns of thought and feelings and behavior that you just do without even thinking about. Again, you do them so well, you probably don't even notice. And people probably say, wow, you make that look so easy. So, but then it's also said talent into strength. So we'll get to that next, but some insights. Don Clifton worked at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and he's the founder of the Clifton Strengths and the whole positive psychology movement, if you will. Mr. Clifton really did great work. Instead of, we like to fix things. In fact, one of the themes I'll show you is restorative. People like to fix things. And so in the field of psychology, it was his opinion that people worried too much about fixing people. And what his idea was, let's worry about and let's maybe help people focus on what they're good at and manage those things that they're weak at. So that was his work. And based on those years of research and experience, he's kind of come up, and his team have come up with, Mr. Clifton has since passed away, but his family has taken and carried on the Clifton name through the Gallup organization. But 4 major conclusions that have held up over many years. The study of strengths created a new theory on what people are like and how they develop. In other words, being positive and starting from where you're talented. Talent doesn't mean a strength. It doesn't mean you do it nearly perfectly every time, but it means that you have that tendency, that likelihood. And so that can be developed. Kind of like Caitlin's basketball talent, Brady's soccer and academic talent early on in their lives. Maximum productivity can be gained by focusing on strengths and managing weaknesses. Very true. If you're focused on doing those things that you're talented with, it's a whole lot easier. It's really hard to change and to try to work from a place of weakness. Try to fix yourself, constantly be in a fix-it state. I've said to people, I would love to have the whole self-help book industry go bankrupt, because instead we're worried about, developing our talents. Our greatest talents, the ways in which we most naturally think, feel, and behave, represent that innate power and potential. So if we can learn what that is, we can tap into that as a source of wisdom and power. We gain the ability to transform every moment, every interaction, and every day. And that's a pretty big goal there. Something to work for. It doesn't happen through, one webinar on a Thursday evening. So this is a start. Clifton Strengths Finder is a tool that can help you gain awareness of your greatest talents and begin turning those talents into strengths. There are a lot of different assessments out there. I've had some challenges on this. I agree, there are a lot. Sometimes people like to take a variety. When they do that, they find certain themes, but other assessments may have other research and other things that they're seeking to find in you. I appreciate the Gallup Strengths Assessment. I appreciate the information that it provides. I appreciate the coaching work that you can do with people. So there are other tools. I think this one is great. Strengths development insights, some of that then continued when you work from a place of talent, when you develop people's strengths. So they, again, studied human nature and behavior for more than 75 years. And so here's what then they discovered. And this is really cool. Think about this in the workplace, and maybe you hear about this, perhaps part of what brought you in. Maybe you're trying to build a climate of identifying and developing talent. So people who know their talents and have the opportunity to use them at work are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs. People who know their talents and have the opportunities at work are more than 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life. So I don't know about you, but I'm lately hearing lots of reports, and we have been, about disengagement at work. Disengagement at work could be a lot of problems, but one thing is you're having to do work that simply doesn't fit who you are and the talent that you bring to the table. And we can all do that, and we all have to do that in our workplaces. But if that is every day working outside of your talent, it can be exhausting and it can cause you to disengage. Lastly, then, people who use their strengths every day have a 7.8% greater level of productivity. That's a lot. That is a lot. I don't know, it doesn't really matter what industry that you work in, but about 8% increased productivity because your workforce is working within their talent, and they are having that opportunity to use their talents every day. An increase of 8%, That's very, very significant. So you have it, as it says here, knowing more about your talents improves your personal engagement, enhances your quality of life. And it would be nice to interact kind of here. If some of you have your talents, you want to share them, but that's not the way the webinar is set up. So anyway, let me check my notes here and make sure I feel like I've covered everything. I mentioned earlier about talent, but it's called StrengthsFinder. So that's where we're going to move through next. But to go from talent, which are those things that you have as a part of you, those are what you're looking at in that assessment. And so here's a talent theme as given by an individual. And this talent theme is achiever. Achiever is a very common talent theme for especially Americans. And when you listen to this gentleman, it really kind of resonates. I don't happen to have achiever in my top 5 top type talents. However, I do have one, I have responsibility. So a lot of times these achiever things, a lot of times end up sitting in my talent for responsibility. So, achiever.
I'm an achiever. I can't go to bed at night with to-dos left on my list. It doesn't matter if they're for work, for home, or for fun. I have to accomplish my goals every day. And I'm driven to complete my work assignments on time and to do more than my peers. I love to get stuff done around the house, so I'm always making sure I have a project or 2 to complete. My achiever helps me to get the most out of every day because I'm constantly trying to cross things off of my list. I find that I have to manage the achiever in me, however. Obviously, I get a lot of stuff done, I'm pretty productive with my time, and it makes me feel great taking care of the things I've committed to do. But sometimes I overextend myself. In my haste to cross more off my list, I sometimes load up with too many to-dos. I feel bad if I can't get everything done quickly. But that's what keeps me going, the need to achieve as much as possible with my time. I'm proud of my achiever talents. I'm not shy about how they drive me, and I use them to my advantage. People at work and in other parts of my life know they can count on me to get things done. There's no better feeling than knowing I've achieved a goal, except maybe moving on to the next one.
That's an excellent kind of approach and talk about achiever. And if you just got to listen to my garage door open and close, I apologize. You probably could hear that. I found this sound system is pretty sensitive. So yeah, again, nothing like working from home. It's kind of been my normal. So I apologize for the garage door again. The dog might bark too. And even with doors closed, he's kind of a big dog. So when he barks, it's loud. Anyway, I like that too, because one of the things that that gentleman delved into was kind of what Gallup, they call it balcony and basements. And so our talents can also become kind of our weaknesses. So sometimes that thing that we're talented in causes us to kind of create a weakness in ourselves. And he talked about that because he wants to achieve, he wants to get on to the next thing, he doesn't want to disappoint himself or others. He maybe takes on more than he should. So that's something to keep in mind too, and we'll talk about a little bit later. So strength. As a definition, Gallup has a really nice formal one. To me, the definition of a strength is when you are almost always perfect and unstoppable at something. Some people kind of talk about flow state and different things like that, but that which you can do, which when you are so good consistently all the time, so good at that. And that is when you've taken a talent, that potential, and you have developed it into a strength where you perform at that practically to perfection. Anyway, that's a definition. You, the rock star, have strength. Everyone does. So have you ever even been told, like, you make that look so easy? Have you ever watched an amazing performer and thought, she makes that look so easy? And then you've tried to make even a free throw, let alone a jump shot under pressure, and realized that takes a lot of developed talent to be able to do that. And so when you are that rock star at something, when you are that good, almost to perfection every time that you do it, appreciate it. It's very valuable in workplaces and in life. So what does it take to take a talent and develop it into a strength? There's a formula. Unfortunately, it doesn't involve numbers. All the math is great. So talent is a natural, again, that natural way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. There are lots and lots of talents. They're almost limitless. Gallup has grouped them into 34 talent themes. Competition is one that I'm using for Caitlin and Brady. Another talent theme, communication. Katrina shared she has communication. So there's a whole lot of talents within that talent theme of communication. And when Katrina reads about her talent themes, there's probably certain things in that when she reads her report, it's just, that's really me. That's really me in terms of communication. So that's those different themes showing up. How do you, like any great talent, how do you get it into a strength? How to become the best in the world at it? You invest. You invest your time spent practicing, developing your skills, and building your knowledge base. You're probably getting coaching. You're probably getting a lot of feedback. Feedback is your friend, as long as it's given lovingly and meant to improve you. And that then is that develops into strength, that ability to consistently provide near perfect performance. So investing in strengths development, what does that look like? There are 4 principles to develop strength, and these tied to your, your Gallup talent themes, your Clifton Strengths Assessment, your top 5. It applies to becoming a downhill skier. It applies to becoming a great researcher. It applies to becoming the world's best thoracic surgeon. Whatever that might be, these principles apply. We're going to talk about them in the context of your Gallup strengths. 4 principles, know and understand. So what does that mean? We got to know your top 5, and you got to understand them. You got to know what they mean. You've got to read your report, delve into the Gallup website, learn more, attend things like this, and then value them, use them, share them. Mine happen to be on my resume. Mine happen to be listed in my email. I put them on my signature line. So that helps me to know and understand. It also helps me to value and helps me to remember to use them. It also helps me to work with other people. Also, relive your successes. And that doesn't mean like living at some point in your life when you had this vision that life was perfect. It's reliving those successes and knowing, so with your communication talent or your competition talent, yep, this really worked for me now. What can I take from that to have my communication or my competition talent work for me in this situation? And then practice. So continuing on with Caitlin and Brady. So these are 2 fully scholarshiped college students. One measure of success is going to college. Another measurement is having a full ride scholarship, completing college. It's certainly not the only measure of success. The measures of success and the way people view success are as many as people are out there. So this is simply one. And as a teacher, this is the kind of experiences that I've been able to have with clients that I've worked with. So Caitlin and Brady. Caitlin has one image there. Very, very early on in Caitlin's life, she was identified as 1, loving basketball, the game of basketball, and 2, just being darn good at it. She was so good, and other little girls didn't want to play ball. They didn't want to play basketball. So by about the age of 6 or 7, Caitlin was playing basketball with the boys. As she grew, as she was coached, as she developed in this competition talent that she used then in the game of basketball, for which she also had physical talents, she continued to play up. She played up, she played against and with boys, she played up in the women's leagues. She was always playing older than she was. And so that identification of her talent, 1 as a fierce competitor, and 2 as physically able and talented. And that has just progressed throughout Caitlin's life and nothing changed. Another talent journey was with Brady. It was early on. So very academically talented throughout his life, really loved soccer. Soccer is like a family thing. He was really talented at it, practiced really hard, worked hard at academics. So I had these 2 competing things that he was very, very good at. When he was in high school, he had this realization, and this is where competition comes in. He had this realization that, you know, I'm really good at soccer, but I'm not so good that I'm going to get a scholarship to college to play soccer. I know I can't compete at that level. But what he realized is because of the coaching and the support that he's had, that academically, on the other hand, if he would focus his talent on that, keep soccer as a hobby, that he very well could end up with a scholarship to college. And so again, focusing. So, you know, identifying your talent and then investing in it. So both of them did. For Caitlin, that was throughout her whole life, now into her young adulthood on a college scholarship. Seriously could see her continuing in that college, in that game of basketball for many, many years, even post-college. For Brady, he transitioned out. He said, you know, I can't be the best at soccer. It isn't going to help me achieve that goal of going to college. So I'm going to put that aside as a hobby, and I'm going to focus on the academics. And that has worked out for him. So those are their talent journeys, and they have been talent identified and coached and supported and developed. So what about weaknesses? So these are, talk about strengths. What about weaknesses? Because that can come up a lot. Well, you know, I want to develop my strength, but I've got all these weaknesses and I've got to fix them because they're holding me back. Well, sometimes your strengths can be your weaknesses. They can turn into those things that hold you back. So it's important that you learn to notice and manage them. I mentioned earlier, Gallup talks about balconies. That's when you're using your talent as a strength and you're really seeing clearly and doing really well with it. So managing your life, managing your relationships, and it's not working against you. Sometimes we can be in the basement with those talent themes. Like our achiever talked about in that earlier video, you can be in the basement with that, with taking on too much. That then creates stress in you as a human being. It maybe creates damage to relationships, not just personal relationships, but work relationships. And that would be a good sign to you that, oh, yeah, I'm an achiever. I really want to do this, but maybe this is the time I'm not being an achiever. That's a good thing because it's damaging relationships and creating stress. So again, sometimes our strengths can become our weaknesses. The second thing, and I think this is where we focus a lot of times too, is the things we just don't do well naturally. We just don't. There's so many things that we can do. We can't do everything great. We can't do everything perfectly. Impossible. Give yourself a break. Instead, partner with someone. Maybe you're a strong communicator, but they're really deliberative and they can slow you down and help you to communicate better, your thoughts out better. Partner with or hire. So when you're thinking about working on teams for work, for school, partner with people who aren't necessarily like you. It really isn't good to have a team that's all communicators if no one wants to go do those other things that might be needed to get the task completed. So partner with those things you're weak at. Sometimes you're gonna have to step up, kind of like in the workplace, and do those things that you can do them, but they're not your natural. They are stressful to you, but as long as they're not your norm. And then lastly, if you're an employer or you're a hiring type of manager, hire for it. I had a great experience with an administrative assistant that I worked with. She was like my perfect complement, and we worked so well together because her talents in the job that we kind of shared to do together, she was so good at where I was not so good at. They were things I could do, but boy, they were miserable, and she loved them and she was so good. So hire for it is another way to manage your weaknesses and be aware of those. That idea of partnerships and teams and hiring for talent too, these strengths-based partnerships, something that Gallup brings up and I've really seen in the workplace and in the school, is those best partnerships happen when you and someone who has strengths that complement yours join forces and focus on that single goal. Your strengths cancel out your partner's weaknesses and vice versa. You accomplish together what could not be done separately. And I always think about that with my admin assistant, Sue. I know in the job I held, I was able to get more done. I was able to produce more that I had to give to the people above me because I had her beside me supporting me. Caitlin, Caitlin, my basketball playing example. Caitlin's on a basketball team. All players on a basketball team and most any other sports team, they don't all play the same role. And Caitlin loved her high school team. She loved playing with her high school team. That was community, that was home, that was really good. But she had to work a whole lot harder on that team because she was so talented. She could do so many jobs. And other girls were talented, but not to the level of talent that she was covering a lot of other roles so that they could win games. That sounds kind of arrogant, but it isn't intended to sound that way at all. Because then when she would play on her AAU teams and her Junior Olympics teams and things like that, every other player in every other role was more at that talent level that she was. Then she could just focus on playing her role really, really well. She didn't have to worry about playing her role and doing other people's jobs. So for her, it was more relaxing and restful to play at that higher level against older and with older young women than it was to play on her high school team, because she could be that perfect person in her particular role on her team. And that's the way all teams are, and that's why you want to hire the best or partner with the best in a particular role. So for example, you don't want to hire me to be your spreadsheet person. That's not my role. That's not where I like to live. But there are people out there that are awesome with that. And so that would be an example to think about, is partnerships. Again, partnering with people around a common goal, and then hiring. Hire for it. Look at where you're strong, where you're not so strong, and who you could hire and help. All right, a couple examples. I think these are really good. Maximizer is the first talent theme that I'll have a short video for. I really like Maximizer. Again, it's not a top theme for me, but Maximizer and Restorative are the two that I'll have videos about. These are great team members. Both of them are just awesome, awesome team members when you're working as a team. A personal note though, I am married to a person who is a maximizer. Not all people appreciate being maximized. And I'm just going to put that out there. It's great, but I think some of us too who maybe hold responsibility really, really high, and so we're already kind of in this place where we're trying to do our best and we feel really responsible, and it's like imprinted on our head that we have to do this, that we have to achieve this, that we have to have this happen. And then if we have someone in there playing the maximizer, it's very, very stressful. So just keep that in mind. So be careful in personal relationships. Make sure in personal relationships and even work relationships that maximizer, turning on your maximizer is the best way to go. But in this situation, I think on a team, a maximizer is awesome. I had a coworker who was a maximizer, loved working with her.
I work as a graphic designer in the marketing department of a large corporation. I handle lots of deadlines and requests on a daily basis, and I have family responsibilities to juggle, so I use my maximizer talents to make the most of my time. I'm a hard worker, but I also strive to use technology to work smarter and increase my efficiency. This allows me to spend more time on developing creative concepts and strategies. When I first joined the company, I made it a point to study the top performers in my department. I wanted to discover how they use their talents and strengths to create excellence. In short, I wanted to learn from the best. I've applied what they taught me and developed my own style and approach to my work based on personal strengths. It's incredibly rewarding when my stakeholders tell me that a project turned out even better than they had originally envisioned it. I love using my design skills and creative talents to bring concepts and ideas to life and to make them look great.
So that's our maximizer. Again, great to work with on a team that bring out so much good. And restorative. Actually, one of my oldest child happens to be restorative, is in her top 5. And after we worked through her assessment and did some coaching and stuff, I was like, wow, that is so her. And so you kind of know these things about people, but I love using the Clifton Strengths, the Gallup Strengths Finder, being able to have that common language around it now. You know this person, but now we know that that's restorative. And then that's how you can have that conversation to reinforce, to develop, to build up that restorative and show appreciation for that talent instead of just kind of taking those things that people do really well for granted. And I think a lot of times we take those things we do really well for granted, and it's important. Gallup's big on, recognition. And so recognizing where people's talent is really stepping up and helping a team or helping a workplace or helping in a family or community. And so restorative, again, great team member to have.
What's my favorite theme in my top 5? It's definitely restorative. It means I like to fix stuff. Restorative helps me quickly recognize problems and then find a solution to them. Fixing things has always come easily to me. When I was a little kid, I was forever finding things that were messed up. I loved that. And then taking it apart, figuring out what was wrong, and then putting it back together so that it worked better than it ever did. And then when I got older, my dad and I actually used to spend hours and hours in our garage fixing up old cars. Pretty soon, and he doesn't like me to talk about this, but pretty soon, I was better at spotting problems and finding solutions than even he was. One of the best things, in fact, I ever did for my career was that I became a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I'm actually a process improvement captain at the production facility where I work, and I absolutely love it. I work with the other plant engineers on our team to make our processes and our systems more efficient. When a problem's first identified, the first question I like to ask is, where's the pain? And then we drill down a bit more deeply and we find out where are the backlogs, where are the delays, what's the stress in this process, and where's the waste? And with every answer, I see opportunities for us to identify the root cause of the problem, heal the pain, and make our facility more efficient. I'm the guy everyone goes to when they have a problem that needs to be solved.
Who doesn't want the person that heals the pain on a team and in a workplace? That's really awesome. I probably tend to be the one that makes the pain, so I appreciate restorative. I need more restorative around me. Moving into kind of the last portion of what I wanted to share with you this evening is the now what. So what are the life applications? Why does this matter? Well, obviously for Caitlin and Brady, they're being developed, that competition being developed and them taking that competition and using it around the skills of basketball or soccer or their academics to be the best that they can be. That's kind of for them, their life applications. But what about for the rest of us or anyone else? Well, personal. From a personal standpoint, it creates satisfaction. Again, when you go back a few slides, that's one of the things that Don Clifton and his researchers figured out, that when you're working from a place of talent, when you know what your talents are, when you're working from that place, you're satisfied, you're engaged at work, you're engaged with your family, you're engaged with your community. And when you are that then, and I really like the idea of that we're empowered then too. And empowerment, I think, comes with that confidence. If I know who I am, I know what my talent is, that empowers me to then do some good work, do some great things in the community. And we're all talented. You're talented. Every single human being is talented. Continue to develop, like Caitlin and Brady. Read. How do you do that? How do you get better at it? You read. Gallup's website is phenomenal with information, constantly being updated. There's summits coming up. Read, read, read. There's all kinds of coaching and things. Practice. Find a talent partner. Maybe there's someone else in your life who is very into their strengths. Find a talent partner, have conversations, learn from one another. Find a coach. Just like Caitlin and Brady have had a coach, or they've had tutors or different things like that to develop their best selves. Help others. Help others know and develop their talents. And so I am happy to say that I've had the opportunity to work in a number of alternative school settings for adolescents. And then I've also had an opportunity to work in our prisons to do mentoring. And in both of those experiences, when young people and the incarcerated have and these are people in alternative schools and in prisons that life has pretty much told them they haven't been very successful. And that's all they've heard. But again, I just told you everybody's talented, right? And I'm not saying that the incarcerated don't deserve to be incarcerated, and I'm not saying that students in alternative schools shouldn't be in that alternative setting. But what I'm saying is these are all still really talented people. So help others know and develop their talents, and that helps you as well. It wasn't unusual with both the incarcerated that I've worked with and students in an alternative school setting that when you ask them, what are you good at? They could not tell you anything. And I don't make that up, that's genuine. They had no things they could tell you from an academic standpoint that they were any good at. When you ask them how they ended up incarcerated or at an alternative school setting, they could list you pages and pages of the things that they had done that had landed them where they were. And so we're all talented. Maybe we just kind of need to help each other focus on that. At work, take on the challenges that fit your natural talents. You've identified them, or you're going to go take the strengths assessment. Fit your natural talents, or how can you do your job in a way that fits those natural talents? Become that go-to person to be counted on for a task or a job. To know and use your talent at work empowers you, and it creates satisfaction and engagement in your work every day. And if you're fortunate enough to work in an organization that is a champion for the Clifton strengths, this is even easier to do. If you have an organization where you're the one that decides these things, I would encourage you to look at bringing the strengths into your organization. And if you have some influence in your organization and they don't, step up. You might become that go-to person. Lastly, kind of a weird time right now. You might be looking to get a job. You might be looking for a promotion. There are actually a lot of jobs out there right now. So maybe you're looking to get a promotion. Well, how can I use all this talent stuff on my resume or in an application? Well, I would encourage you to note your Gallup strengths. Note them. If you have a LinkedIn account, if you have your resume, anywhere where you can note those things about yourself that you know. And then in a cover letter or a conversation, identify one or two of your talents to address with a success story. Not something you make up, but actually you can speak to. You know, a success story you've had with being a communicator, being a learner, being restorative, like the gentleman that we heard from in the video. So definitely be proud, share that information. How can you use your talents to get a job in an interview or during a promotion? Be prepared to share. So if you've listed this on an application, if you've listed your talents on your resume, be sure that you walk in ready. What talent you listed means to you. So how do you define it? Don't offer the Gallup definition. It's wonderful, but how is it you? How are you a communicator? How do you show that talent in the work that you do? How does it help you be successful at a job? How does it help you be successful with your coworkers? Very, very important that you can work on a team. How does your communication skill, how does your learner skill, how does your restorative, how do those skills help you work with your coworkers? Confidence, be confident in that. Be prepared to talk about it, be confident. How can you build that? Practice telling your talent success stories with a trusted partner. Honest and helpful to your growth. That's really important. Not somebody that'll just kind of agree with you, but actually somebody who's going to give you some feedback and help you to be even better at talking about your talents, how you built them into strengths, how they help you in the workplace. Whatever you do though, and I hate to end on a negative, but I got to end on some caution here. Whatever you do, be prepared to talk confidently about your talents. Only list the talents you can speak to with an example. If that's only one or two of your talents, that's okay. If you've got a really strong success story and definition and way that fits how you operate, and it's two, that's enough. Nobody wants to listen to you prattle on anyway. Speak about those two with confidence and success stories. Don't worry, don't put all five. Focus on the two that just are so valuable to you that you've really spent time developing. And I say this because I've worked with young adults and connecting with employers and businesses. And there was a a business owner I had an opportunity to speak with. Very successful family business, wonderful part of the community. And this business owner knew that we were using the Clifton Strengths with our students. And he just said, don't ever have the students list their strengths if they can't talk about them. He said, if I have that, I see that on a resume and I ask them and they can't talk about it, I'm done. And that's really important. Anything you would put in a resume, anything you would bring into that interview, make sure that you own it, you're confident, and you can talk about it, because people know. And they will ask you about anything that you put in your resume. So practice, be proud, be confident. They are who you are. And be proud of their talents. None of them are negative. So, any thoughts, questions, takeaways that I can address in the chat? Otherwise, a huge thank you. Start with thank you, end with a thank you. I can't say that enough. It's so nice for you to join me this evening. I've got my email. I'm always happy to help you decide if formal coaching could help you grow your talents into strengths. Yeah, so okay, I see some. Abby, thank you. This was really informative. Thank you. Can we talk about specific strengths? Katrina asks. Katrina, what would, this was more of an overview, so I'm not going to tell you that I can, off the top of my head, be really deep down into specific strengths. But are there ones that you wanted to talk about or that you wanted to ask about? Give Katrina a chance here. I'm sort of interested in knowing how they can be, a weakness and a strength. Very good. That's excellent. So let's talk about, number one for me is learner. So I don't want to share tons about me because that's just weird. But number one for me, but I'm going to speak from experience. Number one for me is learner. But I also have in my top 5 input and intellection. And so what that means is I am constantly learning and taking in information, taking in information. That input, I got to take it in. I'm a collector of knowledge. It's bizarre. I don't like collect frogs. I collect knowledge. And then I sit with it. That's the intellection. And I think and I think and I think. And that all sounds really great until you can't do anything with it. And that's what I've had to learn. That's what I've had to develop in. So and that's why I'm doing a webinar like this today. One of the things my coach worked with me on was when you've got this high responsibility, learner input and intellection, you have to have a release for that. You have to have a release. And when I was a teacher, it was really easy. I would learn and learn and learn because then I was teaching science. So that would put that out. But as my career has changed and life has evolved and I've just gotten more, it's done some different things. Now, how can I take that learner input, intellection, that collecting and wanting to share that knowledge? How can I do that? The other thing I'm doing is a release, and that's literally what the coach talked to me about as a release for that, is to do more writing, do more posting out in social media. Not necessarily that anyone's going to pay attention to it, but it's for me. It's for me to take that knowledge that I've pulled in, that I've spent all these years learning, and share it out. And it may help someone else along the way. Oh, okay. Specifically strategic and woo. If you want specifics, laugh out loud. Okay. Woo. Okay. I think woo is 13 for me. Relator is in my top 5. So I'm not the one that walks into the party and needs to know everyone. That's kind of the example that's used. But when I think about, I'm very strategic. So let's talk about woo. Where I can see woo going south, yeah, they are the person who breaks the ice. They're awesome. You want to walk into a party with a woo and stay with the woo, all right? And that's when they're so great because they have no fear and they love everybody and they want everyone to love them back. And they're so generous with that. Where woo can go south is that, and where they have to watch is that if they connect with, say, a relator who's more into those deeper relationships, they can be seen as being shallow and not committed to relationships, that they just hop from one relationship to another. And I think that's sometimes how woo ends up kind of getting a bad rap if you're a woo. Woo is very powerful. My second child, her top two are communication and woo. And so by being a great verbal communicator, and that's her communication is very verbal, and being a woo, she's a great influencer. So those can be tied together. I think woo can get a bad rap, and you have to kind of think about making sure you don't come across as shallow, when even though you know you're not, it's just who you are, but being careful that sometimes you can come across, and that could be the other person's problem. Strategic. My top themes, I have high, when you look at like my themes, I'm high strategic. Here's the problem. And this also is tied into my learner input and intellection. Literally my brain will sit and spin, and so I'm constantly thinking and strategizing. That sounds great, right? I have to execute. And so I almost try, it's that kind of analysis, paralysis by analysis or something. So I literally, when people who work best with me know what's going on, and then it's like they can pull that, they can stop it and they can pull it out of my brain and help me to execute that. So again, strategic's awesome. You want to work with strategic people. Strategic people need to work with people who execute well. And that's where those partnerships come up. Leaning into your strengths now more important than ever. Absolutely. We're in a really, really difficult time. People have lost their jobs. There's a lot of uncertainty. So really knowing who you are, leaning into who you are with confidence, knowing that you are, one, you're okay, and that you'll be okay, and then partnering with people too. Such great stuff has gone on out in our community. Partnering and making our community stronger during such a time of such trauma for so many. So definitely leaning into those things that you're good at and not fixating on those things that, what I've always wanted. I was like, oh, I wish I took my first assessment. Gosh, I wanted woo in my top 5, and I'm okay with that now. So leaning into who you are and appreciating who you are and knowing that I can pull woo out when I need it, but in general, I'm much more of a relator, and I'm going to look for people I know at a party. But knowing that and leading into that is very, very important. Being positive about yourself, and then turning off the negative self-talk, identifying what you're good at and sticking with that and working with that. So listed jobs that work best. Ooh, that's an excellent question. No, there really are not. Any job can really have any combination of your talents and any of those 34, because again, they're all talents. Now, skills are different. To be a great electrician, you have to have attention to detail, and you have to have color vision. I say it because I have 2 sons who are colorblind and a dad who's colorblind. So that's not a job for them because of skill. Some people maybe can't, but when we're talking our innate talents, those talents that we bring to the table, those naturally occurring patterns of thought and behavior, any job can be filled with any talents. And Gallup's research has borne that out. You'll see some things that, maybe, and I think a lot of times we look at a leader and we think, oh, she's got such great command. All leaders should have great command or self-assurance. That's not the case. Actually, many, many great leaders are introverts. And so they maybe don't come and lead with that, yet they're great leaders. So again, the Gallup research says we can all be what we want, what we intend to be based on our talents, but there's no particular jobs that align with that. So great question. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Kind of like that formula for developing a strength, talent, times investment. If I could just give me a list and these are the things, there are other assessments out there. Department of Labor even has assessments where you can kind of, look at those other aspects, those things that you're interested in, those things that you're passionate about that can help you identify careers where you can use your talent. So whatever that career is, where you can use your top 5 talents in that career based on other interests that you have. Kind of coaching do you use exactly? And yes, it would be, do not use. Okay. What kind of coaching do you use exactly? I don't know what that means entirely, but it's the Clifton Strengths coaching. And so, and I'm also a cognitive coach, and that's a more general term. And it's thinking with your thinking. So I don't want to be an advisor. I don't want to tell you what to do. And it's not a counseling role. It's helping you to dig into those talents that were identified, helping you to identify the success stories that you've had and how you can recreate those success stories in everything in your life moving forward. It's been described as I did my training and as I've worked with young people as well and with the incarcerated, it's like you're in a car together and you're in the passenger seat. So you're not driving their car, you're not telling the coachee what to do, but you're thinking with your thinking. And that's what cognitive coaching is. It's helping people, it's asking those questions, it's being present, it's building rapport to think with their thinking to help them process through and move forward. And, you know, there's cheerleading in that as well, you know, celebrating those successes. Oh, and what is the cost? You know what? Do you mind emailing me? I'll type it in here. Email me, and that would be terrific. I would love to visit with you, so please do email me. If that's truly something that you're interested in, I would love to visit with you more about that. Thanks so much. Great questions, great comments. My dog didn't bark, my garage door hasn't gone back up, and it's 6:56. Anything else I can do to answer? Otherwise, I think, Nick, I think we're done. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of your evening. I'm looking forward to some sunshine here in Omaha. If that's where you are, we don't have to all be in Omaha. For all you know, I'm somewhere else. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye.